Hello, everyone. This is Cole from the American Journal of Healthcare Strategy. I'm joined by a special guest, a founder, Harvard MBA graduate with a huge amount of experience, Anchor Ebanks. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anchor Ebanks, as Cole mentioned. I am a recent, actually, dropout of Harvard. So I dropped out of Harvard to found my current company that I'm working on, which is Creates Health. Before my time in business school, I worked as a product manager at Google, where I helped lead YouTube Sports and launched a new subscription product. Really enjoyed that, but ultimately got bit by the entrepreneurial bug and went back to business school. Really enjoyed that experience as well. But as I mentioned, I got bit by the bug, so I had to pursue it full time.
I'm really excited to talk about that dropping out as well. I actually did not know that prior
Yeah.
to you mentioning it. And I'm actually excited to talk about that too, because that can be a challenging decision, I'm sure, especially where you were admitted to, Harvard, Stanford, and Wharton, the three kind of best business schools in the world with incredible outcomes. And you and me were talking about earlier, you're a first generation college student, right? You're the first in your family to go to college. What has that process been like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I tell people, they have a similar reaction to you, which is like, "Oh, it must have been a hard decision." But frankly, it wasn't really. It actually felt like the only correct decision. And typically, I make my best decisions when I evaluate a wide variety of data, and then I take a step back and say, what does my heart think, and what does my gut feel?" And I did that with this decision, and it was undoubtedly the best decision for me. Uh, Specifically, I was very ready to go from an entrepreneurial perspective. Other things related to business school felt more of like distractions. And I was ultimately optimizing for learning and growth. And I felt working full time out in San Francisco would be the best vector for growth for me. So, yeah, my mom wasn't particularly happy about it, but obviously she supports me in whatever I do. So I went ahead and did it.
How far into the MBA program were you when you decided to leave?
Yeah. So I completed 1 year and then was working on my company over the summer and got to a point where I was ready and excited. So it was probably about midsummer is when I ultimately made the decision, but spent maybe 5, 6 weeks over the summer talking to a bunch of people, alumni, entrepreneurs, etc. And then coalesced around a decision about midsummer.
Now, I want to ask this about the kind of alumni and just the network at Harvard. It's usually really impactful for a lot of the students that go there. Do you feel like they've continued to support you even though you've left, or has it been, kind of a shunning experience? What does that look like?
No, they've definitely continued to support. Um, so I operate in technology, software, entrepreneurship, etc. And in that space, frankly, I don't think people care whether or not you finished. And that was part of the calculus in my original decision. So I did specifically test that hypothesis before I decided to drop out. Like, what would it be like? So I talked to other people that had dropped out, and ultimately, it like people understand like you have a mission and a vision, and obviously like Harvard can support that in some capacity, but other scenarios maybe it's best if you choose a different route. So I think most people that I've talked to are still very supportive, and obviously I was very lucky to actually go to school and meet most of my classmates, and have them built into my network already because they know who I am, they know what I stand for, etc. So those people will always support me in terms of the alumni. They've also been highly supportive as well.
Great. I'm really happy to hear that. That's awesome. And so you talk about how you were kind of bit by this entrepreneurial, bug. A lot of people who are entrepreneurs know what that feels like. What came first though? Was it the idea for Creates Health that came first, or was there an entrepreneurial spirit that you had beforehand?
Yeah, so I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit, just based on my upbringing, but then more specifically, since I was 11, I've had some form of a business on the side. So first business was a pretty classic one to support my video game habit. I mowed people's lawns around my neighborhood, built it into a little business of my dad's friends, etc. So that was great. And I kind of carried that spirit throughout. Um, in terms of my professional career after graduating undergrad, it kind of veered away from entrepreneurship. But I always knew I wanted to come back to it. So I kind of thought of those professional experiences as some sort of preparation for it. And then ultimately, when I moved out to San Francisco and really was deep into the entrepreneurial scene there, I knew that I had to get back to it as quickly as possible. So was kind of evaluating a wide variety of paths to entrepreneurship, but then ultimately decided that I would use business school as kind of a platform to ideate, figure out what I wanted to work on, and then jump into it face first.
So you left Google because you wanted to kind of get more into the entrepreneur environment, and then that's why you decided to start at Harvard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, spot on.
Okay. Nice. That makes a lot of sense. And how was your time at Google? Do you feel like your past experiences, whether it's at Deloitte or Google, has that benefited you in terms of the experience where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically, more so my time at Google. Deloitte learned kind of how to be a professional. I was a strategy consultant there. So beyond that, learned how to manage clients, learned how to have high quality work deliverables, learned how to do really difficult problem solving, learned how to tell stories in a corporate and business environment. I think those are kind of the core takeaways that I had from that experience. Then jumped over to Google. And as I mentioned, I was a product manager. I was super lucky to have a great team, really cool products, and then more specifically, to be able to work on things from 0 to 1, right? So I had experience like literally creating products from nothing, which is precisely what entrepreneurship, especially in the technology and software industry, is. So that was a really formative experience for me. And beyond, learning the skills, it also gave me the confidence to help me understand that I knew exactly what to do as it relates to creating something from nothing.
Very cool. And so then you went to Harvard, and then this idea came up. When did this initial idea for Crates bubble up, and what did that look like in its earliest form?
Yeah, I think I have to go back probably a decade or so. Not that I was working on this idea specifically, but about a decade ago, I lost two of my grandparents to preventable chronic diseases. And for me, that was a bit eye-opening. I never really thought a lot about health and wellness before that moment. Um, and when that happened, I started to think about it every day. And I became obsessed with personal health and wellness. So much so that it became a real part of my identity. All my friends know me as kind of like a health and wellness nut.
Hmm.
And basically over time, as I was, continuing to progress from a professional perspective, realizing my interest in entrepreneurship, I knew that I wanted to do something kind of at the intersection of technology broadly and health and wellness, specifically kind of in the realm of helping people live happier, healthier lives through smarter life decisions, or healthier life decisions specifically. Um, so that's kind of the foundation, right? Then I went to business school, and I was exploring kind of a variety of different ideas for something like 9 months. They were mostly in the AI space, and we built a variety of products. Didn't really get a ton of traction with those products, and then I came back to something that I've been doing for a while. So, and this now we're getting kind of to the origin story, the true origin story of Crates Health, which was when I was leaving to business school. Um, I was doing some financial planning, and I realized that I wasn't going to be able to support the $500-600 a month that I spent on my health and wellness practice without income while in business school. So I basically went deep into all kinds of different financial planning scenarios, etc., and discovered that, in fact, many of the expenses that I had from a health and wellness perspective were HSA eligible, so health savings
Really?
account eligible. Yeah. Um, so as I dug into that, I basically reached out to my friends in the medical field and tried to understand what I needed to do to ensure that I was compliant to be able to use my HSA account on all these expenses. And the core of it is basically you need a letter of medical necessity that ties you preventing, managing, or reversing a specific health condition to a specific health and wellness product that you're using, right? So I have a long family history of diabetes and obesity. So that is something that I'm specifically trying to prevent, manage, and reverse. And going to the gym, as an example, is something that can be scientifically directly tied to preventing those diseases. So that's kind of how it started. I did that myself for the first 12 months of business school, saved something like $2,000 to $3,000 on my practice, and then when I was in business school, exploring a bunch of ideas, I told a few friends about how I supported my relatively expensive health and wellness practice, and they immediately asked me to help out. And that was kind of the light bulb moment where I realized, like, oh, maybe there's something here. Maybe I can build this into kind of a software product, and that's what we've done.
That's really fascinating. So your background as well is you have a degree in accountancy as well, right?
Yeah, I do, which
So
surprises me, frankly.
but you see, you are good with the financial understanding of things. So can you explain real quick, what is the benefit of these FSA, HSA accounts? Where is the savings coming from?
Yeah, so the savings is basically that you're able to use pre-tax dollars on these wellness items, right? So maybe I can put it in English terms. Imagine a scenario where I don't use my health savings account. That means Anchor gets paid his salary. He has the money in his account. He then goes and pays for his gym membership. He pays $100, right? So that's $100 of my after-tax dollars, meaning that I already got taxed whatever my effective tax rate, anywhere from 30 to 40%, et cetera. Now, imagine a different scenario where Anchor is a savvy a consumer, and he actually does use his health savings account. In this scenario, all of the money that you stick into your health savings account is pre-tax money, meaning that they didn't tax you at your effective tax rate, right? So if you use money from that account, you're basically saving whatever your effective tax rate is. Depending on which state you live in, it could be anywhere from 30 to 40%.
Right. And does that include city, state tax, or is that just federal?
Federal, state, and city. Yeah.
Wow. So I would be saving, yeah, like 30%. So essentially we could look at it almost as taking 30% off whatever that cost would be, essentially, right?
That's the precise way that I think about it, because because probably going to spend on some of these items anyways, but because they do have that kind of medical use case specifically, I've been able to use that 30 to 40% saving.
Oh, and so what does Crates exactly do to facilitate this? What problems is it solving?
Yeah, so basically, as I was mentioning before, the core way to activate your health savings money is in order to use it for these wellness items, is you need a letter of medical necessity, right? The way that you get these letters of medical necessity today is a very difficult process. Basically, you have to book a doctor's appointment with a primary care physician. You then have to go to them, have a conversation with them, discuss why you might want to use certain products to help you prevent certain diseases. And then you have to sit there and hope that your primary care physician is kind of a preventive health focused physician, which, needless to say, there are very few of those in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's a really kind of onerous task and an onerous process. And basically what we've been able to do is, post-COVID, they made a bunch of regulation changes from a telehealth perspective, which have enabled many more use cases of telehealth. So what Crates does is makes this process super simple. So you come to our website, you click the Start Saving button. We'll take you to an online health survey. You fill out a few questions, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. We then, once you submit that, our medical team evaluates your results. And then based on the results of that health survey, you could be eligible for any number of our 185 wellness partners.
Wow.
And then from there, once you're kind of in our product, you're able to issue those letters of medical necessity that you're eligible for basically in real time.
And what are those 100 80 so wellness partners. What kind of things does that include?
Yeah, so we basically have four categories of products. Um, one is nutrition, one is health tech and wearables, then saunas and cold plunges, and then I'm blanking on the fourth one, and then fitness.
So
So
we already talked about gym membership is like an example. Can you give me some other examples of how you
yeah,
or I could use this?
yeah. So I can just describe how I use it specifically.
Yeah, please.
So on my wrist here is a Whoop band,
Yep.
which is HSA eligible. So I say 30 to 40% on this specifically. So the whole category of kind of fitness trackers are some products. I also do like saunas and cold plunges. So an example is I'm here in Boston currently. So I go to some of the sauna and cold plunges houses. That's also HSA eligible. You can use it for supplements. So anything vitamin B, vitamin D, etc. Those can all be HSA eligible. Um, and then yoga classes, your
Oh, really?
berries classes, all these kinds of things can be HSA eligible.
Wow, that's interesting. So if I wanted to get, a fitness class, like you said, I could essentially get that practically 30% off of what I would be normally paying.
Yeah, precisely. There's
Wow.
a yoga class right down the street that I go to that I get 30% off.
And then how many people have used this service so far?
Yeah, so we just came out of beta where we had 50 beta users. And now we are super excited to kind of open it up to the world and onboard many, many more users. We really do think this is kind of a huge unlock for many people. There's something like 35 million HSA accounts in the United States. That number is growing by 10% a year. Those accounts have $150 billion that sit in them,
Well,
and that mostly sit idle. Uh, and obviously, I'm sure most of the listeners are aware that there's kind of been this very big kind of trend in wellness. With the My core thesis is basically like people are kind of waking up to the fact that the United States healthcare system is pretty broken, and as a result of that, they're taking their health into their own hands. And the way that they do that are things like fitness trackers, supplements, blood testing, etc. So there's this just massive growth in the wellness industry. We also see massive growth in these HSA accounts. But kind of the core thesis of our business and the vision for our business is that these HSA accounts are the single most underutilized asset in all of personal finance and health and wellness. And the reason they're underutilized is because it's really difficult for people to understand what like the benefits of HSA accounts. There's a recent survey that said only 3% of account holders fully understood their benefits, right? So there's this massive gap in education. And we're basically building software to put all of the utilization of these HSA accounts on autopilot.
hmm. Yeah, because I've never used it for that exact reason. I don't want to just take my money and put it in an account that I don't have any way of using, right? And I've read, the articles on it, right? I mean, I'm in the industry. It's not like I don't know how, but it seems too complicated and too much of a pain for me to use. And so I guess my question is, what's the cost to me to use a service like this?
Yeah. So we have three different subscription options. One is $35, and that gives you access to one letter of medical necessity and then ultimately savings on one product. We then have a three product plan for $89 annually that gives you access to three letters of medical necessity and then ultimately savings on three. And then we have our highest priced one, which is $99 a year, and that gives you access to unlimited letters of medical necessity that you are eligible for.
Well, so $99 less than $10 a month, and I can get unlimited letters of medical necessity.
Yes, so long as you're eligible for them. And just from like an economic perspective, just to give you a few details from our recent beta is on average, we've saved our customers $327 annually. So they paid us 100 and they basically make $227. And like I said, I personally have saved $3,000 using this.
That's what I was going to ask is you said you spend $600 a month on your wellness routine, right?
Yes.
And so that, you're as you said, you're kind of a self-described, wellness nut, right? Is what you said. So
Hmm.
that's going to, you use it intensely. $3,000 is a lot, right? For someone who's really using these services. I can imagine that in urban areas, right, there's quite a few people who are going to use it to this level. So you probably see quite a bit of adoption that's going to be coming pretty soon. Uh, what was the feedback from the beta users? Was it overall positive?
Yeah, it was overall positive. They found the product easy to use, particularly relative to some of our competitive products, because our premise is basically that you can just use your personal credit cards. And all you need to do is upload a receipt to our platform, and then we will automate the reimbursement process for you. Whereas some of our competitors require you to have your HSA card, which I've talked to hundreds of customers, and many of them have no idea even where their HSA card is. Many of them don't even know the login to their HSA account. So we've basically circumvented those problems by just building our own software platform, making it super simple on behalf of the user to utilize that money, even if they don't know their login.
Oh yeah, no, that's really cool. And so I guess one of the other kind of final questions for you is, where are you going from here? What are some of the additional features and things that you're looking to do?
Yeah. So we're pretty hyper focused on growth at this point. But from a product roadmap perspective, we have a lot of really, really exciting features and kind of new products that we're launching over time. One of the core ones is basically we're building an AI engine that will help identify all HSA eligible expenses in real time, and it can manifest itself from a user perspective in a variety of different ways, right? So we're probably going to be launching like a wallet, an HSA wallet. So you might imagine on your browser, you have a Creates Health wallet. And as you're checking out at Amazon, you'll get a little pop up from us that says, hey, this sunscreen or this item in your cart is HSA eligible. One click, port it into our platform, and then we'll give you the option for one click reimbursement. Then we're also thinking about how to integrate people's personal credit cards into our platform so that we can automatically identify any HSA eligible expenses that come through your own personal credit cards. So basically, again, the kind of core vision for us is to put your HSA on autopilot so that you can fully utilize all the money that's in there.
That's really cool. Wow, very nice. And so, uh, thank you for giving us that great overview. I want to kind of go back and ask a couple personal questions here. Is
Yeah.
what would you recommend? Because it seems like you've been so successful in this, right? You've actually been able to design a product that's been beta tested, is now gaining users. What would you recommend to people who are earlier on in the process of starting a project or starting a company? What recommendations do you have?
Yeah, I think the first thing that popped to my mind is talk to as many potential users or users as you possibly can. Really, really listen to them, listen to their problems, pain points, etc. And then try to kind of see the through line across all of those users. And if you start to see a through line, that means this is a problem that many users are facing. And then from there, obviously, you can figure out how to design a product that they ultimately would love, right? So that's the first thing. Talk to users. Second thing is just start doing shit. Like, just go. Um, like, I have so many classmates of mine that say that they're interested in entrepreneurship, that they want to start something, and they basically sit on their laptop and do research all day about the potential problem. And that, like I just don't know if that's the best path to actually kind of getting the wheels rolling. So it kind of relates to my first point, which is go talk to people, like go talk to users, and you'll start to be able to figure out what some of the real problems are. And then the third point, which is somewhat related, is just once you get started, just keep going.
Mhm.
um, it's going to be hard. It's going to be growing, but if you just keep powering through, you'll start to see some success at some point, hopefully. And at the very least, you'll start to come to the realization that you should change your idea or whatever it might be, but just keep chugging along, and you'll start to figure it out over time.
You mentioned that when you were at Harvard, you had been designing different products, right? That you had been testing out. How many design, did you go through, and how did you prevent getting discouraged?
Uh, um, so We built 3 different products. Um, we've talked to probably 300 to 400 different potential users to discover problems. Um, so it's a long, arduous process. It can be discouraging. I think, frankly, the way that I overcame it is, I think, because of my upbringing, I'm just an eternal optimist. And I also knew going in that it's not going to be easy. So I just knew that if I continued to put in the work, I'm a huge believer in just putting in the word, that things would start to become a little bit more clear, and I would start to be able to get the wheels rolling. So for me, it was just continuing to believe that putting in the work will lead to something.
I really appreciate that, and thank you for all your advice. I remember in our MBA program design product design class, we only had to interview 10 people. The 400 sounds incredible. So thank you for sharing this. I think it sounds like an incredible product. I'm going to go to the website now and check it out for my wife and I. Of course, we're going to link it down in the description. We encourage everyone to
Please
check
do.
it out. And honestly, I'm going to recommend it to some of my colleagues who have asked me what I do with the FSA HSA options, and I said I know nothing about it. So this is great. And again, thank you
Yeah.
for spending a half hour with us.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll share my personal email with you afterwards. So if your colleagues have any questions, I'm more than happy to help them out with that. Obviously, feel free to spread the word about crates. As I mentioned, we're looking to grow and grow as quickly as possible. So every little thing helps, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're going to share this on LinkedIn. So I want to see that Craze LinkedIn page get some followers from this. So we're going to link that
Yeah,
page there. And once again, thank you. And I hope people check out the site.
awesome. Thanks so much.